Hello there. I am once again back to drawing. Uh, I spent the past half hour looking through games on Steam, through my wishlist and through existing games that I have to see if there was anything that I was excited about streaming, but I kept coming back to being excited about drawing stuff. So yeah, I am once again. I kind of ruined that for me by just starting up drawing again, and now all I want to share and do is draw. This is the, I guess, screensaver, or I wanted to have it be a pause screen, but it doesn't really work as a pause screen. Yeah, the image I drew last time, I ended up being not very happy with the, I guess, intermediate result of. Maybe I can still show that somehow. I will just drag up the layers. Added so many layers. What the heck? Something like this? With then a solid background? No, that was even... something like this. Ignore the thing that's going on in the background. Either way, I didn't end up liking it too much, so instead I spent a few hours just making the background a little bit more busy and thereby making it fit in with the rest of the image. And I think it works much better this way. Obviously it's a lot more work. I was hoping with the, I guess, more simplistic background to have it work like that, but I'm happy with this result as well. Either one is going to be fine, either one I can work with. And since I intended to now start going back to, I guess, streaming games again, I then started up drawing other things. And now I'm at the point where I don't really want to play anything right now. Instead, I want to draw. So I'm just going to continue what I was doing anyway, which is this. My idea was, if I want to test or attempt drawing more simplistic stuff that doesn't take as long, I might want to try drawing, I don't want to say something like a webcomic, but something more in a comic-y way, where then can also write on occasion and kind of merge those things together. And so I started on just brainstorming an idea for a story, and then starting just with images belonging to that story. And I can maybe show the basic version. Like, this is what I started with. Basically sketched a spaceship, sketched the outline of someone in their I guess round window of a different spacecraft looking at the spaceship. And then here a close-up, it's just literally a copy of this zoomed in. And since with the last one I learned that it is really helpful to have a rough sketch in the background and then kind of draw on top of that, I then ended up doing exactly that. So I did a rough sketch for the background, and then I drew on top of that. If we remove the background, this is what the, I guess, final version is. And then in terms of coloring, I don't really want to color it. I think it's much nicer when it's without color. So instead I have this version, which has one color as a highlight. I think it would be nice to have like one color as a highlight per page. And then her looking at the yet to be outlined spaceship in the background. Again, this spaceship in the background is just, I literally just took a copy of the top one to put it there, but obviously I won't be able to, or I don't want to have it in this much detail because it will not mesh with the rest of it. In terms of body, I had so much trouble with this body because I'm I'm really focusing on drawing faces usually, so I just don't have any idea how a body looks like or moves or is shaped. So this is my current attempt. I'm quite happy with how it turned out, but I had the legs took 17 tries. I realized I did forget this connection part. So yeah, this is what I'm gonna do for tonight. Not too long, but I'm gonna draw a little bit on this, maybe fill in the lettering. I haven't really thought about how to do that as well. Yeah, basically I have my outline in the background and I'm gonna use that as, I guess, a suggestion and then add in more detail on top of that. And I think the general idea of going black, white, one color is gonna be really nice because I don't have to deal with trying to do extensive shading. I might do a third, I guess, grayscale step because I realized that when I take away the outlining, it kind of looks worse, and I think it's the shadowing and the kind of grimy looking derelict spaceship vibe that is going on here. And I think if I just add gray, not as a shading color, but as a different color, it might work really well. So I'm gonna try that out. But first I want to finish the different panels. This is panel 2. Guess what the first one is. And yeah, I'm gonna, this is the, I guess, brush size I'm working with here, so I definitely won't be able to keep all the detail. I think since the background is gonna be dark or black, I'll have to use that in the foreground, or use kind of negative space in the foreground, which I might have to figure out how to do, but I think for now I'm just gonna do what I would feel like would be the correct, this is so large. If you've seen the brush size goes over everything, and if I do very little pressure, I get this not quite in the complete brush. And then the more pressure I add here, this is complete pressure, it gets more prominent. So basically I have to try to be just very, very careful, very gentle with the brush, and see if I can kind of recreate the spaceship in the background. Yeah. So the general idea is I went with basically a bunch of sci-fi quotes that I really like, and kind of I have a Word document where just, if I find a quote that I find really nice or really interesting, I kind of keep it there, because I like to have a, I guess, shared vibe of what kind of story or what kind of science fiction type I like. And I basically looked at those quotes and then tried to figure out what would be a reasonable or a nice story that can be done. Not with those quotes. I don't want to be like, oh, how can I implement "you only live once" as a sci-fi story? But more how I can evoke the same feeling that those quotes give me in a sci-fi setting. And yeah, the idea that I came, or the tentative idea that I came up with, is that I want to try to do something like a delver into, I guess, computer memories, or a memory diver that searches out, I don't want to spoil too much, actually. I don't want to give too much away, but a memory delver that searches out derelict spaceships in a far kind of post-apocalyptic future where there is not that much of humanity left, and that kind of extracts the remaining emotions to kind of save them, but also to save other people from other survivors from these emotions, or from these, I guess, derelict and left alone ships. That's the general idea. I don't know if I'll stay with that, but for now I kind of like it, because obviously with me having issues with complex characters, I don't want to have to draw like a bustling city or something like that. So something like a kind of lonely story fits better. And yeah, in the same way, if I have space as a setting, which obviously in science fiction, or in high science fiction at least, it's kind of the one setting that you want. And it fits really well with me being not all that able to do, I guess, super complex backgrounds and worlds and stuff like that. I might be able to do that at some point, but that feels like it would be a project that takes me easily like a week. And I would prefer to try and learn how to do art quickly-ish. Like I've started this one today, and obviously it's a weekend, so it's not like I'm like I did this in a few minutes. It still took me 3 or 4 hours, and especially with the concept then, it took me ages. But it's something that I might be able to eventually create a lot faster. And I think it's for training art and for learning how to do certain things, it is much more satisfying if you can do something quickly and then learn from the inevitable mistakes you do there, instead of spending many hours on something like I did with this beauty, and then realizing, oh, these are the areas where I could have done things better. Like I think the background cloth here works a lot better than the foreground cloth that I obviously drew before then. And I think face-wise, without extensive shading, I'm having trouble conveying the kind of depth that I want to convey. So for now, I'm just gonna draw slightly more simplistic but faster, or art that I can do a lot faster. And again, a lot faster in comparison. This is not a... I thought about an idea of basically giving myself a timer of like 20 minutes, and after that what I have is what I have. But I would just upset myself because I think that's just unnecessary pressure. Like if I want to stop, have a drink, I don't want to then worry about, oh, and I have to now stop the timer and then immediately continue it before I continue. And then if I break my own rules, how will that affect me liking the piece or not liking the piece? So I still want to give myself the time I need, but I'm gonna try to make things that I at least can theoretically do a lot quicker. And I think in terms of things that I can do quicker, the webcomic is really nice because it then also allows me to write stuff, which I also really like doing. And that kind of combines two things that I really enjoy. And unfortunately, that means there is no game, at least for now. Yeah, I thought about playing a bit of Macabellum, which is a game that I've just kind of played in the evenings anyway. But I realized that I usually like to play a round or maybe 2, and that's not going to be fun if I'm going online playing around and after like 10 minutes I say, okay, yeah, I'm good now, bye bye. So yeah, Instead, we are slowly tracing, I guess, a deep space freighter. I did also already write down the text for this panel, so at least I have that covered. I was thinking about downloading a font, kind of a comic-y font that I can then use to add the text, but fonts usually are copyright protected, or at least people are not happy if I use someone's font to then publish something, if I want to publish it, or to kind of not credit that. So instead I'm gonna use one of the, I guess, readily available fonts to type it, and then I'm gonna try to write it myself. I just need the general idea of, or the orientation of, where am I typing this? Can I follow the letters, and then that way I don't move massively, that way I stay in line. It's going to be very difficult to then, like, because the entire surrounding area is supposed to be black, so it's going to be a bit hairy to then actually add the surrounding area. I might have to play around with that for a bit, because currently what I'm doing is adding a lot of black, a lot of detail, but obviously if the surrounding area is all black, then none of this will really show up, or it will look very, very weird if there are not clear borders. So yeah, I'll look at that in a minute, once I'm done with this. Oh, I basically have to make sure that whatever I'm drawing is really faint, really light, so that I'm not adding too much detail that's then invisible. I was also gonna still go back to the first one, and like I realized pure black space is maybe a bit very dark, so I was gonna add some stars or some lights in the sky. I guess that's one of the quotes that I could have included in my, I guess, storyboard vibe board, that I then left out. I also don't exactly know it. It's the quote from the anime Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann, where they talk about that all the lights in the skies are their enemies, which is a bit of a, I mean, it's a very cheesy quote, but it is a very, I guess it's a very strong quote. Not strong in the sense that it's not cheesy, but it's a very, I guess, emotional quote is what I'm trying to say. Instead, I went with stuff like quotes from Warframe, quotes from Mass Effect, stuff that is, I guess, generally fairly well known. I guess Warframe isn't that well known as a, I guess, science fiction story property, more as a science fiction game. But I think in terms of current science fiction in games, Warframe probably with Warhammer is one of the most interesting and engaging stories. Mainly because it's been going on for so long that it has allowed itself to add a lot of complexity. That if you imagine, if you're a game that's starting out, you probably don't want an incredibly complex story, because you will just have your players not know what to do. And then once you're an established game, you have like World of Warcraft, which has years of expansions and therefore years of story that's kind of slowly building up. And yeah, other games can then do that as well. But yeah, Warframe as a game that has already existed for quite a while has a very deep and engaging story. Slightly insane in areas, but I think the good way of insane. I think when you're doing stories, it's quite easy to fall into the trap of, oh, like, if I'm doing fantasy, obviously there's going to be orcs and elves and other, I guess, fantasy races. And the fantasy races that you kind of generally add are very much the Tolkien ones. So the elves and orcs and stuff like that. And if you're not very careful, you then end up with a story that is basically Lord of the Rings. Oh, I realized with the hair, it's gonna be a bit iffy. I think I have to basically go back into the other layer and basically make a white line that is outlining the hair, because otherwise this will look very, very dark on dark. And I'm gonna lose the entire, I guess, color and area of the hair, which is not really what I'm looking for. Oh, I think I also did the... I hope this is in the foreground. It is. Okay. At least that's nice. The hands were also something I had massive issues with. And I think I've settled with something that is fairly basic. I don't have to like add too much more detail to this, which is nice, because if I had to add more detail, I don't know if I could do that. Like, this is about as good as I can draw hands. If I add any more detail, it's just gonna end up looking worse and worse, because I'm trying to add something that I don't know how to actually do. I guess this is a bit weird, because I'm with black on black. I'm kind of just guessing where my separation lines are. I think this is fine like this. It's a bit weird with the face floating in the in space like this. I definitely also have to add some sort of stars or other celestial bodies in this, just to make sure that it's not all black. Obviously, I think, especially for a webcomic thing, all black would also be fine and doable, but it might be slightly too dark. Especially since the outside area, or the surrounding area, is probably also just going to be black. So yeah, I have to make sure that I'm not overloading this image with black. Oh. Alright. I think this looks good for now. I think last time I was so eager to go back to playing games, because I think watching someone draw something is probably not the thing most people look for when they go to Twitch or YouTube. So yeah, I'm a little miffed that I end up drawing again. But I desire the company. So here I am. Oh no. Now I'm getting to points where I really have to think about what the heck I'm drawing. I think I'm just gonna have to go to a smaller brush. I'm just gonna quickly cover the areas that are easily coverable with a large brush. And then I'm gonna go to a lot smaller size. I'm currently at 50. I'm gonna go to 10. And I think with 10, I'm gonna have a lot less issues. With something looking, or with me going over the border too much. I think the brush I'm using for the smaller lines is also size 10, but obviously since this one is a circle brush, it will cover everything in the circle, and the other brushes are kind of pressure sensitive. So if I put less pressure on them, they're also going to cover less area. Like it, in areas here, it looks like the other brush might be much smaller than this one. But theoretically, at least the maximum size is exactly the same. I started drawing this in, I think, a much lower resolution. So some of the guidelines in the background, like the ship looks weird either anyway, because for this version I scaled it down, for this version bottom right I scaled it up, so it's gonna not fit either way. But yeah, I think some parts of the, is it called a bullseye? The round window looking thing. For some parts of that I used a smaller pen. Well, size 5. I'm gonna quickly check. Yeah, without the outline, I'm still, the body looks fine, I think, but it might be a little bit odd. I'm gonna have to go back and probably gonna do the same thing I do usually, where I wait a day and then check back on the next day and see what it looks like, if I like it or if I want to change it still. Because I think if I look at on the same day, obviously I'm gonna hate it, because I always dislike them. I think the back of the foot is too big here. I think I have to figure out a way to make that a little bit more slim. The rest is, mainly fine. I now just need to add the, I guess, blue glow of the engine. The only blue that's going to be in this one. So kind of like, or the only color, not only the only blue, the only color that's going to be in this one. All right, looks roughly similar. It's nice that it doesn't look like I just took this and scaled it down. I think that would look a little bit odd. So instead it's just the same one, but with less detail. All right. First things first, I'm gonna try to fix, I have to go to panel 2. I'm gonna try to fix the back of the foot here. Oh, let me go to the brush instead. I also got rid of the, I guess, transparency. What the fuck does a foot look like? Only I was more of a, I guess, foot fetishist, and I would easily know what a foot looks like. But as things are going right now, I'm not sure. I watched I think it was a Dropout episode where at some point they started talking about their wiki feed profiles, which I'm not quite sure if wiki feed is supposed to be satire or if it's serious. Satire would be very fun. Serious would be maybe slightly creepy. I think if you stretch your foot like that, you probably have a bit of an arch. So this top part is probably correct. What do you have? Would it be here? Will it be this visible? I think since I add not much other detail, probably not. The knuckle, I guess, foot knuckle. I'm gonna zoom out a bit. No, yeah, this is probably too much. I'm gonna take my own foot as an example. Oh yeah, I guess probably would have something like, oh no, not if you turn it that way. It would be, wait, I think the wrong thing is that I'm building this foot incorrectly. That's not what a foot turns like. So let me get rid of this. Like, if I look at it in this way, it looks like it's a right foot. But the right foot, the actual right foot, is also a right foot. Obviously, you won't have two right feet. So, I guess the size is alright. I just wanted to maybe be like this. Like it just doesn't go into the other direction because it already, oh no, but then it looks weird like that. So maybe it has to be kind of like this. Oh no. I think I messed up this foot quite badly. No. It's fine with this arch. I want to just always slim it down and then she ends up with a foot that doesn't exist. That's also not fine. I guess something like this. Just randomly erase that, but if I... No. Oh, this is so hard. I thought I was done with the feet. I was like, yes, okay. I did the awkward part off stream. Maybe like this. I think I'm gonna leave it for now. Maybe this one also needs to be more arched. Let out those hogs. Oh god, no. Okay. I think this is, I mean, considering that I don't have that much detail anyway, this is probably fine. I probably don't need to go overboard. But yeah, boy, do I not know. I think in the outlining, I did it very blocky, which is a lot easier. Let me go to the outlining again. If I remember now, that the outline, I guess I did it with 50% strength here. That the outline is supposed to be like this, right? I think this is correct. And then if I compare that to the actual panel, let me erase the existing foot again. Oh, and let me go to 100% opacity again. I don't want to have that issue. Oh yeah, I think if I just follow, maybe not exactly this. Kind of like this. And then in terms of foot knuckle, there must be a correct word for that. I know German has a different word for knuckle of the hand and knuckle of the foot, but I don't know what that is in English. Let's see if I get rid of the outline. Oh no, that's a very prominent knuckle here. I think it's probably more of a like slight shade. Maybe like this. Nope. I'll just leave it. I don't have it on the other foot, and the other foot is fine without it. Let's go back to the outlining. Am I doing anything weird with this foot? Is maybe the back incorrect? No. I think if I do that, it suddenly looks like the foot doesn't exist anymore. Maybe it's just the creases here that make it look weird. Maybe it having... Oh god, no, this crease also makes it look weird. Oh god, I hoped I wouldn't be so hung up on the foot. Of all things. Maybe I should have made the sock more baggy here as well. But I kind of like the idea of one sock being a bit baggy and one sock being very clean. Alright, let me go to the panel 1 color again, and I'm gonna quickly stop thinking about feet and start thinking about the stars. So I think in general, if you think about stars, they're probably very, very, very faint. So I'm gonna do just a very small eraser and add a few stars just in the background. It's gonna look a bit weird, I think, at least for starts. Because obviously, like, how many stars am I going to place here? If I place too many, it suddenly looks very odd. If I place too few, it looks very odd. And then I have to think about what kind of scope I want this entire thing to have. Like, if I want to draw a planet, kind of like round planet with a halo, then I have to go back into this and kind of do something like this, something like an a more faint out. I'm gonna have to really be super soft on the brush here. Like, I'm so much smaller than the outline of the brush right now. It's probably fine. I absolutely won't be able to take that and replicate it in the small one. Let me just do the cheaty method. I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna plant it somewhere on top of the other one. Where is it? It's here. I'm gonna shrink that down. Where was it? Roughly towards... Oh, I wanted to say starboard. I don't know what the front part of a ship is called. I'm gonna just place it here. And then I'm gonna use the eraser on the other panel to kind of bring it. Alright, there it is. Oh, this reminds me a lot of those images I used to do as a child, where you have to erase something and then it makes something visible in the background. It was kind of like, I think it was kind of detective books, where you would have a detective story and then you would have to solve it, and it would be solved by you going over... Oh no. Let me just... How the fuck do I do this? I'm just gonna do it from scratch. This is silly. I don't have to then transplant it and then draw over it again. But yeah, basically detective novels where you would unveil clues by drawing over... I don't know, let's imagine a red page and you would draw over it and it would reveal an image below that. No idea how they worked because I don't fully remember what they were anyway. Let's draw the planet with a halo like this. And then I mean, this is... What does this look like? It looks like a very angry alien. I think it's gonna be fine if this is just a dot. Or maybe like a bigger dot. A bigger, more oval dot. That way it's clear what's meant. And then for the rest, I can just do the same thing. I can kind of roughly copy what I'm doing up here. Nobody's gonna take this and try to make star maps from that. So it's fine. On here. Oh no. I'm approaching the foot again. That fucking foot. I think these are roughly behind the hand. Maybe one of them is here. Maybe one is here. And then the rest would be outside of the scope anyway. I'm just gonna place a few random stars in different places. I guess those are these two. And then here we can have a cluster. Mini cluster. Okay, let's fix this foot star, I guess. And quickly, I'm gonna place it here. That way it doesn't have to interfere with the foot. And then in terms of covering, I'm just gonna cover up the previous foot area. I think the foot is fine like that. It's maybe a little bit odd, but I'm gonna have to deal with that. Now, the more interesting part is the hair. Because... oh no, that would be the outlining. I want panel 2. Okay, I have the hair right here. And I want to make sure that I give the hair at least... oh. I think I have to inverse this. And now I want to give the hair a little bit of a white outline against the night sky, I guess. Not that there is a day sky in deep space, I assume. I'm gonna have to see what this looks like. Because it might look a little bit odd, in which case I have to think of a different solution. Might look too outliney. Oh no, I think it looks fine. It's kind of cute. I like it. Let me add a little bit black, more black in. Now the rest of the face, do I have to make an outline for the rest as well? I probably don't. I think the rest of the face is fine like it is. It's just the hair that needs a little bit of assistance, a little bit of help. So oh. I keep forgetting that I'm fucking around with my selections, I guess. I don't need to do an in-depth explanation of what I'm doing here. The important part is now I can focus on the hair again. Oh, eraser again. Alright. I think this should be... yeah, perfect. Looks really nice. Now, for the next part, there were some areas in the outlining that I wanted as white parts in the hair. And I guess I'm still going to keep erasing instead of adding. I don't want to add white to the hair itself. That might look slightly odd. I'm just going to take a really small eraser. 3 pixels maybe. And I'm just gonna... what happens if I do this? If I erase things from the color panel. Ooh. Definitely. Now this is a lot like the puzzles I was talking about. I'm definitely just erasing stuff here and creating highlights from where there was nothing. This is very interesting. So what I'm doing basically is I selected the sketch area, and in the sketch area I didn't color the hair black. So instead I colored the outline with different lines. And now, because I have colored the hair black on the main layer, I'm now taking the lines I had in the sketch layer and I am erasing those parts. Oh no, this is not like this. I think here in the bottom I did a bunch of other additions. I don't have to like fully erase. Let me check what it looks like. Maybe it's a bit too much. I'm gonna get rid of most of these. Like these are fine, but then I'm gonna just add erasing lines back in. Basically, I'm now gonna draw with the eraser. As if I was drawing white on black background. Which is genuinely, if you do that in real life, if you do that on like a piece of paper with a black paper and white coal or even white marker, it looks so cool because it kind of has this negative space effect, and if you know how to use it, or if you know if someone uses it very well, it just looks so neat. And in theory, that would be something you can utilize just as well when you're drawing with actual color. But it's just a lot harder to think of that in the moment. I'm gonna just quickly go over these lines as well. I think they have a little bit too much transparency for me, and I would just prefer for them to be I guess aesthetically similar to the rest of the hair. Although I like these kind of edges. It's gonna be a bit hard. No. I think I'm fine with the rest being a bit darker. Now for this thing, I think it also needs in the color panel, it needs an outline. Am I in the color panel? Oh, I'm in the wrong panel. I'm the color for panel 1, which is the big one, to be in the color for panel 2. Now, if I give this the ever so faintest outline, let me see what that looks like zoomed out. Not all that good actually. I think I'm just gonna keep it. I might though add a bit of a glow to it, since it is kind of a floating light display. I'm gonna go to the I'm gonna do a lot of different things with tools in Photoshop, which is maybe a little bit confusing sometimes. But what I'm basically doing here, let me go to the color panel actually, is I'm adding a brush that is a bit I was gonna say I'm gonna add a brush that is a bit that has very soft edges. Oh god, that was so loud. Oh, that's so loud still. Let me zoom in. Okay, a brush that has soft edges, and I'm just gonna write over this to give it a little bit of a glow. Because I'm gonna add the reflections of this glow back onto the body. So the hand is gonna have a little bit of blue shading, and I guess, I don't know how many other parts of the body would even have a little bit of blue on them, but I'm gonna basically treat this, the only color there is in this area, as a kind of theme. Like ship and main character are gonna have blue. Then when there's danger, I can have red. There is, yeah, in different situations I can have different colors. So, does this need anything more? I was thinking about the gray, and I'm gonna actually just do a new layer called panel number 2 color gray. I want to make sure that I already have different folders for different panels. I want to make sure that I name the panels really well so that I don't get confused later on. Like I already have that issue with the other image where I do not know which layer is. So I don't want the same thing to happen here. Now, for gray, I think I'm just gonna take 50% gray. So the halfway point between white and black in Photoshop is this. Oh no. That wasn't it. That was the halfway point with 38% opacity. Let's not do that. So yeah, it's this color. And I don't think I need to color many things. I just want to make sure that maybe 1 or 2 things are a different color. And that way I can at least have different elements be visible. Like if I want to make this area gray, I want to stay with one color, but then, and I don't want to do shading. So with this one, I can have at least a certain form of separation between areas. I don't know if this is kind of a lumpy bum, but I also didn't want it to be all too skinny or super unnatural. Like go into Barbie mode where I then start erasing more and more because I feel like, oh no, mate, now this is too thick, now this area is too thick, and then in the end I end up having nothing left. And now without having to color the skin, I'm kind of showing where there's skin color and where there is other color. In this case, sock and overall color. Or jumper? Sock and jumper color. Alright, some of the outer areas also need coloring now. Or at least, I guess, graying. So let me add some graying there. Oh. Go over the lines. I'm gonna have to get the eraser back to a normal size. Otherwise, I don't want to erase with 3 pixels forever. Then up here, I can just color everything but the lever. I want to make sure that I don't fall into the trap of basically coloring things like using the color as a border, where I color one thing white and then immediately the next thing will have to be gray. I kind of want to make sure that I'm actually using it as color. But yeah, those panels are probably fine to be a different color. And then I can use the same thing on, I guess in this area. I'm just gonna add a little bit more color in areas. It's not gonna be shading, but I can at least partly use it as shading. And then here I can do the outlining in, add the outlining in again, and oh, it looks so much more disheveled with this gray in here. I'm just gonna make sure panel 2 color gray. Panel number 1 color water. Panel number 1 color gray. Same thing. And then I can kind of... Oh, actually here I think I want the brush. I'm gonna use the same normal sized 10-point brush, and I'm just gonna go over the areas where I think gray would be appropriate. I'm gonna do it very rough because I think it probably fits with the more, I guess, disheveled look if the gray isn't like drawn in a very orderly style, but more kind of applied. I guess I can even get rid of the outlining, because if the gray is more applied wherever. And obviously color-wise I can do a little bit of shadowing here. Don't really want to do too much of that, but kind of follow the outlines and make this basically almost look rusty. Obviously in space things probably wouldn't rust, at least not on the outside, because there's nothing to oxidize. Maybe along the edges there are inside air leaks or something like that that make things rust here. And I can definitely color these panels a bit, make them look like maybe repair points. Obviously the size of this thing would be massive, so these would be massive repair points. I was thinking of the kind of door area here to be a bit of a hangar, where there are, I don't know, shuttles parked or something like that, so that would imply kind of the size of the thing. I could obviously just leave the sketches in there, but I think it's probably more accurate, cleaner if I add this later. I guess I kind of am simulating the sketching process and thereby making this look dirty. So yeah, the idea of the story is that these ships are stranded in space hundreds and thousands of years after last being used, but with futuristic I guess energy models. There's still energy here, there's still a glowing engine, and that means that these ships are still at least somewhat powered, and that also means that they're still somewhat recording. But obviously over thousands of years, their whatever they had in terms of personality has become very sinister and alone and lonely, and needs to be either preserved or taken away. Either way, they cannot stay like this forever. And the main person, the memory diver, is someone who's helping these ships and maybe other elements to free themselves from themselves. And maybe there's an overarching plot. I mean, I honestly don't know if I can or want to make this into a big thing, or if I'm just going to use it to practice sketching things. But yeah, I kind of like this more. I guess it's a webcomic style, but it's also kind of graphic novel. I think a very similar style is happening in graphic novels. And yeah, general the kind of there's only one color element is really nice. It's very, I don't want to say artistic, very artsy maybe. And like if you compare this to movies where there is one color or a dominant color usually, that's very nice because with that color you can then, if you use it correctly, play around a lot to use it as like a stylistic choice within the movie and as a highlight, as a theme. If you think about movies like Sin City, where they very much have color, like in general, most of it is black and white, but then some areas like I think the Jessica Alba bar scene has color, and it kind of is used to separate areas from each other, but then also separate and mark characters. I think the Elijah Wood character, who is the weird glasses guy, I mean, Sin City is a graphic novel, so it makes sense that it borrows elements from graphic novels. Yeah, I think this is mostly fine. I'm probably missing a few of the more basic lines. This could have more. But yeah, I think this panel 1 is done, panel 2 is done. Panel 2 needs the black around. I'm gonna go back to getting big brush and kind of adding loads of color at once. I'm gonna go 100. 100 is very big, but I'm just gonna do the rough outline of panel 2. I have to make sure that I'm within my drawing tablet range. Oh, this is the wrong color. Oh god. Okay, panel 2. Just like this. Perfect. I don't actually, like, I would love to know how actual webcomics do. Oh no. Oh, thank god I noticed that now. I am in the line area of panel 2, not in the color area of panel 2. But yeah, I would love to know how other webcomics handle something, or other webcomics, how normal, actual webcomics handle something like fonts. Like, do you draw your own font, or do you add fonts from a library and then just use that? Or do you just draw everything by writing it? Which is, at least for now, what I'm gonna do. I was looking online because there are massive font libraries where you can download basically whatever font you need. I was gonna see if those have kind of the Batman font. I didn't really know what else to call it, but the kind of very, it looks very much like handwriting, and it's would be kind of the font that you find in most actual high-profile comics. Like if you open a Marvel comic of whatever character, you'll probably find a font that doesn't look like normal writing, but it doesn't look typed. And I was sure that the font is available somewhere, and it still might be, but I couldn't find anything like it. I guess it's a bit hard because if you look for a font that's called Comic, you have a lot of actual fonts that are called Comic something. Comic Sans, Comic other brands are available. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to make sure to add the separator between this and the hair. Oh. And I guess that's it. It feels a bit weird to draw something where I don't have to do major work for every step. But it's also, I guess, it is fairly simplistic. I'm gonna have to see if I like this once it's done, and if I'm gonna make it available somewhere, or if I'm just gonna stream the progress and kind of keep it for myself. I think making a website and then starting a webcomic, a full-on webcomic there, is probably a bit much. I don't really know how to do a website. Like I can roughly I've programmed websites before, but then usually those were hosted by my company, so I didn't have to worry about where to put the folder structure or how to make sure that the website is hosted somewhere. I guess I don't have a server, so, and I don't know if you make a website, if then there's a server somewhere that's backing that. I don't know how websites work. I assume you can do full services where someone offers you a website and they pay for hosting and everything in between. But I have no idea what that costs. Like if you're talking about a few dozen euros a year, or if it's more like 100 a month. I assume it also depends on the traffic a bit. And I mean, I assume I would be on the very, very low end of kind of homepage traffic. But then how did people do homepages in the olden days? Like surely there was a way normal people did homepages. I know that at some point my dad wanted me to make him a homepage because he didn't know how to use a computer more than a little bit. But yeah, I didn't know how to do a homepage. I guess now I could have done that with something like, I don't know, type it in ChatGPT and figure out how to program the basics of a homepage. But yeah, back then, with none of that available, I was like, okay, I can go on Stack Exchange and ask the people there. I guess that was probably, it wasn't pre-Google, but it was definitely pre-me knowing about something like Stack Exchange. So I would have probably Googled like, how to website. And I would have been like, well, listen here. First, you need very basic knowledge of coding, and I would have been like, okay, that's it, I'm out. Knowledge of coding, oh, yucky. Like we had computer class in school, but what we learned there was how to run CSGO, how to circumvent the extremely basic security of the school computers to get CSGO running, and then play that. That's it. That was the entirety of the computer class. And the teacher was complicit in that. Obviously, he was the only one who knew how to do any sort of IT. So he would think either he was the one that like allowed people to install Quake or something like that, or at least he was like, I don't care if they install something like that. So there would be, I guess, Call of Duty 4 cracks, Quake. What else was there? Counter-Strike, obviously. Random Snake games. Like, fairly cool to learn something like that. At least the how do I crack a game. But yeah, nowadays that's not all that helpful. And it wasn't how do I crack a game, it was how do I download a crack for a game that's already done. Alright. First 2 panels done. Last panel is the detail. So first panel is the overview. I want to say, well, here's this world, or I guess a little bit of world building. Second panel will also be world building. I mean, obviously all of this is world building, but introducing the ship. And the third panel is talking about, obviously this is not a normal intact ship. It is very much a derelict ship that we have in front of us. So I wanted to go in a little bit and basically add more detail. I might have to take another shot of the panel number 1, since I'm going into detail. I might even want to go even closer. Like if I go like this. Yeah, I'm gonna go even closer. So I'm gonna remove some of the things here. And I mean, this is for the outline page, so I'm still gonna redraw the entire thing. But I want to make sure that I have the correct and up-to-date reference. So let me make this. I think this would be nice. Let's first remove most of what's behind here on this side. And then I have to remove some of the things on the bottom. I'm kind of tempted to go very marine with that. But obviously something like I don't know. I wanted to add a harbor master door. Obviously there won't be a harbor master door in space. There are no harbor masters in space. Well, actually, I assume there would be harbor masters in space. There are no harbor masters that are leaving through a door on the spaceship in the middle of space. Layer 3 has to be 50% so that it can be roughly merged with the outlining, and the outlining has to be deleted because I now have a different one. Oops. Yeah, trying to keep an orderly structure for all of my layers is very dense. I'm size 10. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So first order of business is redrawing this exact ship once again. For the third time now. And then my intention is to not only add more detail, but then also make sure that I kind of show that this is not a healthy, alive, bustling ship, but one that is very much broken. So maybe some areas where there are holes in the ship's hull. Ah, God. Maybe I do other lines first. Keep realizing that there are some directions on this trackpad where I just have absolutely no control over where I'm going. I think it's specifically this type of line, where it's just, I just hope that I end up in the spot where I'm aiming for. Oh, roughly. Like, it helps when I have not actually a plan yet where to go. Like in the previous painting, drawing, that was very easy because I could just draw, and if I ended up somewhere I would be like, yeah, I intended to end up here. But yeah, in this one it's very much oh yeah, I have to make sure to also not run out of area. So yeah, in my mind this was kind of like a ship with different modules, and since it's a transport ship, each of these modules then can be added or removed. And like, obviously if you think of a transport ship or transport train, in reality this would be very short for a transport train. They usually have hundreds of, or do they have hundreds? Maybe not hundreds, but they have dozens of wagons. Maybe also even hundreds. So yeah, I assume if something was to actually transport goods in space, it would need a fairly strong engine, but it wouldn't need to fly super fast or be super mobile, because the point is to bring stuff from A to B. So it would be something that is incredibly massive and then has like 1,000 segments of just goods. Maybe have faster ships for then more important goods that need to be transported quicker. But yeah, for the general stuff, it would probably be just incredibly long freight ships. Probably take days to load and unload. But the point is to bring as much as possible from A to B. And yeah, you do that by basically making things very, very, very big. Because the expensive part is the journey, and whether you're pushing like 4 containers or 50 containers really doesn't make a lot of a difference. You're probably going to end up with the same amount of push. Or the same amount of, I guess, no, you would use more fuel, but you would use a lot less fuel per container. I wonder if there's been science fiction stories that have portrayed that. Like that, obviously, if you have spaceships, people are going to use that to just haul insane amounts of things over great distances. So you don't need to be fast, you just need to be fucking massive. Like I guess there is a bit of a limit, because at some point you probably reach the end of what an area can supply you with. Like if you're docking at a factory, you can make your ship the size of a small country, but the factory is not going to be able to provide as much as a small country. And then you're sitting there like, okay, what else do we fill this shit with? Oh no. My eraser is too small again. But yeah, I think as soon as you're hauling over big distances, the money you spend on the crew, the ship in general, maintenance, stuff like that, you then want the ship to be just humongous. And you probably are not gonna use a ship for a factory, but more like a ship for a big station or planet or something like that. That would be probably loaded for multiple days, unloaded for multiple days, haul things for a month or two. Go at fairly, like comparatively low speed, because it doesn't have to be super fast. I guess, yeah. The more I think about it, the more it's like, okay, then you need other context, like, oh, is there conflict in this scientific in this science fiction story? Because if there's conflict, then you need to have ships that are maybe slightly smaller and maybe can actually run away if need be. Like if you have seen like transport ships that are carrying stuff over the Great Lakes or something like that, they look insane because they're so long, and you think, oh, surely they just break apart. And then it's like, no, these ships are well built, but then sometimes they did break apart. Like there are some accidents where these long Great Lake ships, or where at least one or two of those long Great Lake ships broke apart because they were built incorrectly, not because the design itself is wrong, but they were like incorrectly maintained and not done well. And then obviously you come into a situation where, yeah, the ship is gonna break apart, at least under sufficient storms. Although, now that I think about it, the one that I'm thinking about is a story where I think a ship got lost in the Gulf of Mexico or somewhere in the I think it was somewhere in the Atlantic, but close to that area, like close to the Gulf, close to the southern part of the US. Trying to think of the name of this ship, but I can't quite place it. There's a great channel called Brick and Mortar that does in-depth, like not tellings, but in-depth reviews of the like final reports of these kind of ship accidents, and that doesn't like they don't do a lot of, I guess, shocking story bits. They don't make it like they don't editorialize it to then be like, oh, and this is why did he make this mistake, this is so silly of them. But they get kind of very matter-of-factly go over what happened, and obviously they have some stern words if it turns out that it was in fact the company that decided to save costs and kind of were like, yeah, maintenance, it's so expensive. Have you tried not needing maintenance? And then the ship sinks and they were like, yeah, too bad. Worth the risk though. Think of the shareholders. But yeah, Brick and Mortar is very, very, very good. There's a different channel called, I think, Oceanliner Designs that also does a lot about ships. Now that I'm at the topic of ships, might as well. And those are maybe a little bit more made to be a little bit more entertaining, so there's a little bit more of storytelling and a little bit more of drama, but also very, very good videos about ships that didn't quite make it. Yeah, it's really funny, or not funny, but it's interesting listening to some of those stories as a German, because a lot of the times Germany plays a role in those. Sometimes they build big ships, sometimes they build smaller submarines that were an issue. But oftentimes, like, German shipbuilders get mentioned, and it's like, oh, the Northern German Hapag, never mind, the other one, the Northern German Lloyd, the WAF Lloyd did something. It's like, oh, interesting, that Lloyd still exists under a different name, but when it's like, oh yeah, they built something in the late 1800s, I'm like, okay, I know what they're still around, they're still massive. Had a little bit of trouble during COVID, because obviously during COVID there wasn't a lot of need for shipping. I guess maybe there was need for shipping, but shipping was kind of halted in many areas. And I think then it was like, oh, they almost went bankrupt, and the city jumped in to help them. And then as COVID started to wane down, they were like, holy shit, we're just making insane amounts of money. And they paid out an extraordinary dividend because they made so much money after COVID. And it was something like 80% of, like, the city got back 80% of what they paid for the parts of the company while still owning parts of the company. So they were like, okay, here's most of your investment back, but you're still a 10% shareholder of us, so have fun. So yeah, that was interesting to see, also because obviously that completely breaks statistics. If you look at stocks, it's like, oh, this stock pays out a normal dividend of 70%. Like, does it? Then it turns out, no, this is an abnormal dividend of 70%. Okay. I think I've replicated most of the things that aren't just coloring. Ooh, this looks weird. Oh, this looks off. This looks awful. I hate this. But this is, I guess, what it looks like before anything else. And now I can slowly add details, like make this one an actual hole. Maybe there is some sort of rifling for a vent or cover or something, or a big elevator or something that were blown out, and now it's just without that. And yeah, I think I will just continue adding more detail to that. I think I'm not gonna continue streaming that for now, and in the end I'm gonna have a hopefully really nice and interesting first part of a webcomic. I might put a link to that, or to that image, or to that, like this one page somewhere, at least on YouTube under the video. For now, thank you for watching. I will see you at some other point, maybe for drawing, maybe for games, hopefully for games at some point, but odds are it's gonna be some drawing again. Bye bye.